me turn my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo. Where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course, and it is Thursday, so it means it's time for our Thursday Trends episode. And on the show today, we're going to touch on Nicky Jam and him addressing his past support and then withdrawal of support from the now president Donald Trump. We'll also talk about a really interesting developing story that's happening about Donald Trump allegedly being pressured to give Puerto Rico its independence. We will also touch on what the hell is going on with Daddy Yankee and these lawsuits that he's been going through. And on a positive side of things, for our Mi Gente segment, we will celebrate someone from our community who just had a huge win at the Oscars. With that said, let's first and foremost dive into the nonsense, the BS, in a segment called For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the Say it louder for the people in the back.
All right, let's start with Nicky Jam, right? And his endorsement of Donald Trump during the campaign rally last year, during a campaign rally last year. Now, for many people who recall, it was an embarrassing moment for Nicky Jam as Donald Trump misgendered him when introducing him, referred to him as a she, saying she's hot. And now Nicky Jam was on a podcast, I think it was Billboard Latino, and he was talking about the moment, basically saying that this was the first time he ever met Donald Trump, was at this rally before they went on stage, and that Nicky Jam was with his wife, who Trump assumed was the artist known as Nicky Jam, and that when he introduced Nicky Jam on stage, that's who he was expecting to come up. Since then, Nicky Jam has said that Trump actually apologized to him for the mix-up. Now, that was obviously embarrassing enough, and then it kind of got even worse, I guess, after the comments made by Tony Hinchcliffe, the comedian, where he called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage at a Trump rally in New York. From there, Nicky Jam walked back his endorsement of Donald Trump on social media and said that he had to take a political stance that Puerto Rico deserved respect. Now, since then, as it says here in the article, it refers, Nicky Jam was very complimentary of Donald Trump, and didn't view him harshly in retrospect here, even though Trump obviously was the one who hosted the rally and booked somebody like Tony Hinchcliffe to talk about, say jokes and blah, blah, blah. Just embarrassing. And I it's one of those things I don't see how he can sort of recover from this moment. I don't know, man. I think it's interesting. It's interesting to me. Fame, money, platforms, all these different things. And it's an interesting conversation in general, sort of what's happening with the right. And I've been hearing, this conversation on a lot of people like TikTok kind of having this conversation, but the right has figured out a way, and I guess Trumpism has sort of figured out a way to make being a Republican cool, right? And that quite honestly, I think much of what we've seen with like a younger demographic going towards Trump is the sort of appeal that they've been able to create I think through some of the people who are following him and supporting him publicly. You have some of the biggest sort of comedians who are Trump leaning, and I just think it's interesting, especially when historically the Democrats have sort of been the party of like Hollywood and celebrities and things like that. And being a Republican wasn't necessarily cool, right? Being a conservative wasn't cool. And now through Trump, I think through his way to manipulate media, his understanding of media, and quite frankly, his prowess when it comes to marketing and selling himself, he has figured out a way to sort of make being a conservative cool. And many of these sort of celebrity influencer types, I would throw Nicky Jam in there as well. Unfortunately, it sucks when it's one of your own, but they're kind of grifters, They kind of just bounce around to the next hot trend, the next paycheck, the next, moment in the spotlight, and they don't really stand for anything, And that's what makes sort of, someone like a Bad Bunny so special, is the audacity to actually stand for something, right? And we sort of just, I don't know, we live in this world where people are just so hungry for the next chance at the spotlight, and it doesn't matter where it comes from or who's shining the spotlight on them as long as it's on them, if that makes sense. I mean, you have, the Amber Roses of the world who was like, oh, I'm all about women's empowerment. And then I'm doing things like something called a slut walk, which, to each their own. But now she's like a conservative, MAGA-loving person talking about family. Like it's just like this performatism that happens for the sake of more fame, more attention, and it's interesting, sort of how the trendy, quote unquote, cool factor has shifted into the conservative world, and I think it's why a lot of people have sort of begun to drink the Kool-Aid, if you will. The Joe Rogans of the world and all these people have slowly, I think, sort of red-pilled their audience. And, I think someone like a Nicky Jam was a byproduct of like just trying to ride that wave and probably collected an easy paycheck, and again, not somebody who really stands for anything. And yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm just sort of bringing a commentary to the table. I don't have anywhere specific to sort of go with that. The sad part about it is, though, the repercussions of that. I think, if I had like a takeaway of that sort of observation that I'm having, a lot of these people. And this is like I guess this is capitalism at its finest. It's short-term thinking and ignoring long-term repercussions. How do we make a quick buck today, even if it means shooting ourselves in the foot tomorrow? And I think when you have this hyperfixation on money, status, or fame, you're just chasing the next quick hit without giving it much thought as to where it's coming from. And unfortunately, in our case here, when it comes to the support for Donald Trump, you're leading to somebody who is doing all kinds of things that are actively disrupting the lives of so many innocent people. And that is the fucked up part about it, right? It's one thing if it's entertainment and things like that. It is what it is. But now, this sort of grifting and hopping onto the next trend is leading to a lot of really scary moments for our country and its future, And I mean, that leads into this developing story right here. I think it's from Daily Mail. And they're talking about Trump being pressured to make Puerto Rico independent as a means of saving America $617 billion. Now they're saying that Trump is being lobbied by sorry, I have my small print on here. I'm trying to read off a far screen. He's being lobbied by at least 2 congressional offices who are in possession of a 7-page draft executive order on how the U.S. can help the island territory transition to independence. One individual familiar with the document has said that at least 2 members of Congress have a copy of the draft. And the Daily Mail has actually been able to actually review the draft. And I'm nervous about this because I feel like it never... I'll keep reading this, but what makes me nervous as I think about this is showing how, again, short-sightedness, the way that they just fucking started laying off random federal workers without giving it much thought and not really having a plan in place, but just bulling a china shop. I want Puerto Rico to have independence, but it's not something you could just spring on them with no real plan and then expect the island to prosper. That's what makes me nervous. But, you know, it's... I don't know. I'm like, a part of me is like excited about it. Another part of me is nervous about it. I mean, the White House is declining to make comments. According to the document, the effort seeks to establish the Caribbean island as a sovereign and independent nation, and in the process, decouple its financial security interests from those of the U.S. Copies of the executive action have been circulating in a few Capitol Hill offices. Again, people are not responding for comments at the time. The draft is being made to look like an executive order and is written as though it were authored or at least authorized by Trump. They're saying a March 2025 date was left blank, so it could be as soon as this month. See, this is what I mean. Like, all right, so the order, if ever adopted, would establish a 21-month timeline for the end of birthright citizenship for Puerto Ricans. So any person born in Puerto Rico after December 31st, 2026 would not be eligible for birthright citizenship. But anybody who was made a U.S. citizen through their birth in Puerto Rico before that date would retain their citizenship. The draft notes how Washington is projected to spend $1.37 trillion over the next 50 years in supporting Puerto Rico, in addition to up to $8.6 billion in disaster relief. They're ignoring that Puerto Rico does contribute money to the U.S. as well. But yes, this is a means to save money, they are saying. That's the gist of it all. Yeah, I don't know, man. I am excited for it, but again, like, wrong person, wrong time type of thing. Because this guy doesn't give a fuck about people and their lives and doing things in a way that is win-win for each side. He literally is just like a fucking fumbling, bumbling idiot, and destroying everything in his path with no tact whatsoever. And that's what scares me about it. Obviously, we don't know all the details and what the plan is exactly. Like, if I mean, it sounds like if they're trying to trim this amount of savings that they're calling it or whatever, they're going to want to do it as soon as possible. Again, it's just like, I don't know. It's also like, maybe it's one of those things where, like, when you finally get what you asked for, now you're like nervous about it. You ever had that where you finally get like something, but it's a lot of responsibility, and you're like, oh shit, now it's like real. Now I'm actually have to figure this thing out. That's what scares me a little bit. Also, ironically about this, once again, statehooders in Puerto Rico, you've been played as a fool. You've been promised statehood by Jennifer Gonzalez and their political party, Yet here in the States, they're once again making it very clear they want nothing to do with you. They see you as a burden that is not worthy of their time or money. And literally, there are people drafting bills right now in Congress in hopes that they can get rid of you and never have to deal with you ever again. Once again, you guys have been played as fools, and you had a real shot in this last election to have actual change for the island of Puerto Rico, to set itself up for the future, to not be relying on federal money in the United States of America. You had a leader, a potential leader there, okay, Juan Dalmau, who wanted to make Puerto Rico more self-sufficient and wasn't trying to sell you on some dream about the U.S. making you a state. But instead, you allowed yourself to be fools once again, and now look. Now look. How are you feeling? It's whatever. Anyway. Man. You know, we're doing the last thing I'll say on just in general. There's a lot of fuck around and find out happening right now, unfortunately. And that's a fun way of saying this. But at the same time, unfortunately, there's a lot of people's lives who are affected and going to be disrupted as a result of the find out phase of this. And it sucks. With that said, we'll take a quick break here and then we'll be right back. All right, we are back. And last thing I want to touch on here, this has been going on for a minute. I've been meaning to talk about it because it's just a crazy story of drama. But Daddy Yankee and his ex-wife have been in court for a while. He's now suing his ex-wife for $250 million and also suing his sister. Suing her sister, I should say, her sister. Now, claiming financial mismanagement that caused him harm. This is worst case scenario. I think it's also why, and as challenging as it is, I mean, honestly, strangers steal from you too. I was going to say this is why you shouldn't work with anybody you, like a part of your family, but people, I guess this happens every day, right? With strangers and everything. It hits more, though, when it's your fucking own family, your wife. I can only imagine how he's feeling. So he's alleging irregularities and negligent management of El Cartel Records and Los Cangres, Inc. According to legal documents, his sisters had full control of the two companies and used them to enrich themselves financially. Daddy Yankee's legal team brought allegations of financial misdeeds against Mireles and Ayechia during the divorce. Daddy Yankee's lawyers argued that Mireles, is that her last? Is that Mireles is her first name? That's the ex-wife. A crazy name. And that Mireles and Ayechia wired $100 million. $100 million to their banks while running the companies. Oh my god! How the fuck? $100 million, bro. You weren't even trying to be slick about it. $100 million. That's crazy. That's crazy. And he's saying that the family helped destroy evidence. It's so crazy. My God. There's also all kinds of crazy shit as well, because they're saying that Daddy Yankee's legal team claims that Mireles gave Rafi Pina control to sell Daddy Yankee's artist music catalog, according to Telemundo Puerto Rico, stating that it would put and the lawsuit states that it put Daddy Yankee's interests at risk. Holy shit. That's bro. That is fucking. And they were married for 20 fucking years, bro. 20 years. Oh my god. How that's, you want to talk about this man, how could he ever trust again? Right? Your own wife, bro, stealing from you. Your hard work. And like, and also, why? Money gets people fucked up, man. Like in all honesty, you're already Daddy Yankee's wife. I'm sure whatever you want, throw it in the bag, basically, right? Like what? I can't see how he would like, like have you driving a fucking Honda and he's Daddy Yankee. So at that point, what is the point of stealing money that you already have access to? People are crazy. You gotta trust accordingly. I don't even know what to say to that. Like, this makes me so fucking so nervous. And you know what? I've done businesses with friends. I've done businesses with girlfriends, and it never ends well. And it sucks because it's like, you know what? In theory, in your mind, it's like, I want to be the people that I'm already around, that I'm closest to, that I essentially trust more than anybody else. Yeah, those are the people I want to be in business with, right? I want to do things with those people. And I'm already with them on a regular basis. Why not just invite them in so we can, really be more of a cohesive unit? But when things go bad, they go fucking bad. And I think that's what it is, right? Because things go bad with strangers and people that you're just strictly doing business with. But I think the reason why they say don't do business with friends or family is because when things go bad, they go 10 times worse than they would have had it had been just a stranger or an acquaintance, right? Because now there's not only like business emotion involved, there's personal emotion involved. And if you thought a ex-business partner that was an acquaintance was going to be spiteful, imagine like a scorned lover that now is going to be even more spiteful. And you're talking about money at this point, not just like, they're keying your car or some shit. And I think that's what makes it worse. And then when God forbid the relationship ends, it's your livelihood at stake, not just like your heart being broken from the romantic or friendship sense of it all, right? And that's, I think, what makes it even worse. But what a man. This woman tried to sell his music catalog without his permission, bro. They had to be separated or some shit at that point. I can't see how you'd be in a healthy marriage and that's like the vibe you're on. And not like, at that point, you're rich, you're living a lavish lifestyle. This is the fucked up part about, human beings, guys. This is why we're in the shit show that we're in right now, because as human beings, I guess the unhealed human being, this is why self-work is so important, because without it, it's like it's never enough. You could have everything you've ever wanted, all the money in the world, all these things, and you're still going to be starving for more. Like, again, you're this man's wife. You probably already living an incredibly lavish lifestyle. You need to then steal $100 million for no, like, how much more do you need? What else do you need? What are you not getting that you need $100 million to steal it? Like money, man. It's like that old saying, right? It's like money and fame. I don't think that they make people bad, but they magnify who people really are. So if you are a shitty person or a unhealed person, money and fame are only going to magnify those worst qualities, and really bring them to light and have you operating at, an even higher level of, a lack of morality than you would have without it. But yeah, I don't know. That's just fucking scary stuff. How about some positivity? All right. On a positive note, we're going to celebrate somebody from our community who just made history. And it's a beautiful thing. But first, we'll take a quick break and then we'll be right back. All right, so we teased this last week that she was nominated and there was a good shot she was going to win. Now she actually won. Zoe Saldaña just made Oscars history and won Best Supporting Actress for her role in Emilia Pérez. And if you watched the acceptance speech, it was beautiful. She shouts out the Dominican Republic. She shouts out her mother. She's like fighting back tears. She's screaming, "Mommy!" And she talks about being the first American-born Dominican actress to win this award, but knowing she won't be the last, right? And I thought it was a beautiful thing. Like, you know, I'm sure like somebody out there is, I mean, shit, I was inspired by it. I'm not Dominican, but I'm sure somebody out there, another Dominican kid is out there who dreams of being on that stage one day. And now they have, you know, proof that it is in fact possible. And, you know, again, when we see these moments, it's easy to sort of brush it off as like, oh, it's just entertainment, just, you know, a lousy award show. What does it really mean in the grand scheme of things? And on the surface, yeah, I think there's some truth to that. But truthfully, when you look at it from the sense of like who's watching, who's being inspired, what this means for future stories of the Latinx community, right? What potential film or TV show is going to be made now because they saw the success of Emilia Pérez, right? And that's what you have to sort of think about, the domino effect, the trickle-down effect that potentially happens when a film like this and an actress like her get this sort of acclaim. It's something that potentially has a positive effect for generations to come, and that's what's beautiful about it. And not for nothing, you know, I also respected she was getting hit with some hard questions. There was particularly a Mexican journalist who asked her about the backlash that was going on from the perspective of people feeling like this painted Mexico in a negative light. Now, I haven't seen the film. I think there's some cartel mention or drug, you know, mention in the film, some element of crime. And I respected the fact that Zoe gave a strong answer, basically saying like, hey, you know, the truth is this isn't a film about Mexico. It's a film about these, you know, this woman or these women. And we could have had this story take place anywhere else in the world. It just happened to take place in Mexico. And she said that's her perspective. But the beautiful sort of thing about it was she gave you sort of her strong opinion and didn't back down from it. But then also said, I'm more than open to the dialogue, though, if somebody feels differently than me and sort of feels like we came up short or are contributing something negative, I'm more than willing to hear their point of view and listen. And I think that's like the goal that should be the goal for all of us, man, in this life, in this world, is like, you know, we're allowed to disagree and we're allowed to, you know, agree to disagree and feel what we feel, even if it's counter to, you know, a popular opinion or somebody else's opinion. But we can't allow our opinion to walk around and proceed as if it's a fact. You know, we can stand strong in our opinion and sort of operate from the mode of like, prove me wrong. But you have to be open to at least the conversation of how somebody else might interpret a situation or their feelings about it, you know, and be respectful of the fact that their interpretation or their feelings about something may differ from yours. And it doesn't have to be an argument or an altercation. You can have a conversation and respectfully hear what they're feeling, what their opinion is, and it doesn't have to be this sort of moment of animosity like we're seeing in modern politics, this sort of polarization that happens. So I think that's sort of the beauty of that moment. That's why I pointed it out. But yeah, big congrats to Zoe Saldaña, her first time winning. So she absolutely deserved it. She's a legend. Like I've talked about this before, but like it's crazy that she is now just like getting this honor. It's wild. But anyway, Yep. So it's a little positivity here for the community. Again, seeing how that inspires generations to come. It's a beautiful thing. With that said, let's tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for conclusion stew.
All right, so we kind of touched the gamut of a lot of random things here. Nicky Jam, I mean, we live in a grifter culture, grifter society. And, you know, when you don't stand for anything, you'll allow yourself to be played by a fool who shows you the next sort of shiny thing, right? And oftentimes it'll end up backfiring and you'll end up sort of alienating people as a result. And I think Nicky Jam had to learn that lesson. And listen, not to say I don't wish him any ill will or his career to, you know, not be fruitful anymore or anything like that. But I think he definitely lost a lot of credibility and support from the Latin community, specifically Puerto Ricans, as a result of sort of not really standing for anything. So, you know, unfortunately, it's the world we live in, but here we are. And Trump being pressured to make Puerto Rico independent to save America a bunch of money. It's like, it's an exciting day or an exciting development, but scary when I think about the person that is going to be responsible or in charge when that potentially happens, if that potentially happens. And that's what fucking scares me. And that's why I'm not like overly excited about it and I have a lot of anxiety about it. And then Daddy Yankee, speaking of anxiety, your own wife and sister-in-law stealing crazy amounts of money and then trying to sell off your life's work is fucking wild work. Like, that's wild to me. It makes me like paranoid about dating anybody at all or associating with any human being whatsoever. Just crazy. God, like, let's heal ourselves. Money will have you doing some stupid shit for no reason. Like, this is the epitome of like so unnecessary. But, you know, sad. I mean, listen, and my heart goes out to him. He's the real victim here. He lost his wife and money and now has to go through this entire messy lawsuit publicly as a result of this. It just sucks. And on a positive side of things, Zoe Saldaña, big congratulations to her making Oscars history. She won for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. She's the first American of Dominican descent to win an Oscar. Absolutely amazing. Again, it's bigger than just like the movie, bigger than the Oscars. It's what potentially happens after this. It's the doors that are potentially opened as a result of the success of this movie and this actress in Zoe Saldaña. It means hopefully other projects, other stories will be told as a result. It means another generation of, people of color inspired to do their art and have the belief that they too can do it on a high level because they've seen somebody who looks like them. And that's the beauty of this moment. So yeah, big shout out to her. With that said, that's it. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I will catch you on Tuesday with a brand new episode. Till then, stay safe and we'll talk soon. Peace.